There are currently 197 perks in Dead by Daylight, and despite that, only 6 are used commonly in all survivor loadouts, and the killer meta is limited as well. This means that the majority of perks are bad, useless, or poorly designed. In this vid, I want to talk about what are the worst designed perks in Dead by Daylight, and I want to make something clear. A perk being bad does not mean that it has poor design. Let me put No Mirror as an example. The point of the perk is exactly what it does, and thus, it is not bad design, so let's start. I personally don't think that Insidious is technically speaking a poorly designed perk. It has a function and it does that function well, but it is poor design for Dead by Daylight. Insidious is a clear example of a product of its time, back when DBD was a very slow game and it was more sided on being a scary experience instead of the fast-paced, action chase-oriented game that it is nowadays. The reason why I think this perk is bad is that if you're a new player, when you read what this perk does, the first thought is immediately camping. A perk designed perfectly for campers is bad design in DBD, simply because camping should not be taught as a viable strategy for new players. Well, technically kills are actually rewarded, so maybe this perk is actually very well designed. Another perk that is a product of its time. Not only is this perk worse than Spine Chill, but it also has a very long cooldown for its use, which is understandable since we wouldn't want this perk to be constantly activating, since it would be annoying. But there is no point whatsoever to run this perk when you have another perk that completely outclasses it and was released at the same time. They both serve the same purpose, but Spine Chill has no cooldown, gives you a boost in action speed, and it doesn't depend on your camera movement. Besides, Spine Chill helps you when you are being in a chase, and is part of one of the best survivor chase builds. It's so outclassed by another perk that I don't understand the point of Premonition since the start of the game. I think that the current object of obsession is what Premonition should have been designed for. If the killer sees you, you are in great danger, just like the name states. To this day, I still don't understand what the point of reducing the terror radius in a chase is. This perk is so poorly designed that the only useful thing it has is the obsession changing mechanic. If you're in a chase, you don't need to have reduced terror radius as the chase music exists and you have a clear red stain in front of you. Is it to transfer the chase to another survivor? It's useless either way. Dark Devotion is way better for this, and it does not have the hard requirement to exclusively chase the obsession to get stacks. And not only that, but now with the Ghostface rework, this perk is absolutely useless on him. If you're chasing someone, most likely they will be marked, and a marked person cannot reveal you. This means that Ghostface won't have a terror radius nor red stain, and his own perk is useless on him. This perk needs a rework, but they must keep the obsession transfer part since it's the only useful part of the perk. There was no need ever to have this perk in Dead by Daylight. First of all, what is the point of this perk? To know when to save a survivor. So you have an entire perk slot only for the purpose of knowing when a slugged survivor is able to get up. Not only is this the most situational perk in the entire game most likely, but on top of that it has range. That's right, it's not infinite, it has a 48 meters range, because if it had more, this perk would be way too powerful. When is this perk useful? I cannot imagine a single situation where this perk is actually really useful and needed. I am sorry for the person who designed this perk, and I am sorry for Ash Williams for having probably the most useless, worst, and poorly designed perk in the entire game. And if any of you dares to comment that this perk has aura reading, I will personally slug you if I find you in my games. That aura reading is useless. It's like taking a shit and putting some glitter on top. It's still shit. I don't understand the need for this perk either. If you take the range out of it, then this perk becomes very situational but extremely strong if you are Boba, for example, because you have a confirmed kill the moment you hook someone in the basement. With the range, this perk is useless. If you are 32 meters away, it only gives you a small heads up to go back and camp the hook survivor. This is basically a camping perk, without the part where you stay next to the survivor AFK. I don't think this perk should honestly exist in the game, at least not with the current effect. The only cool bonus this perk has is if you are 32 meters away and someone decides to go for the basement chest. But even then, you don't know for sure how much is 32 meters, so maybe if someone goes to hide in the basement, you are near and you won't even know. The name of the perk does not reflect the power of the perk, at least not in my opinion. This perk is probably the most unfairly treated perk in the game. Back when the PTB for Deathslinger was released, Gearhead was a promising perk. It was like a different discordance. You had to hit survivors twice, and anytime a survivor that is repairing a generator does a skill check, the gen will be highlighted. Without any explanation as to why, this perk was nerfed to the ground, adding a longer cooldown and making it so it only activates on good skill checks, completely ruining the perk. Why? What is the purpose of this perk? Now in the present times, Gearhead was reworked. Now when Gearhead is active, it reveals the aura of a survivor when they hit a great skill check. A red aura in a red generator aura. So unless you are paying extreme attention, you won't see the aura of the survivor repairing the generator. I have no clue what problem they had with the original Gearhead perk. That was a good design. The perk currently is poorly designed, and it's so unfair because there was absolutely no reason to nerf it. Now, I think the idea behind this perk is very cool, but it is poorly designed for one reason. It punishes the killer if they want to save the tokens optimally, having to resort to attacking from very close or wasting a token, and only 5 tokens per match, and it all depends on generators being done. I personally think that this perk is very poorly designed. This is a very cool perk again, but it's simply too weird and bad. Make it so that you only consume the token if you actually use it or if you miss a swing, and then it becomes a great perk. But because of how this perk is actually programmed, they have to rework the code entirely in order to fix this. With any of the previous perks, I can actually make an argument and defend each of the perks, but for Beast of Prey, probably even the developers would agree with me. So let me explain why I think this perk is the definition of poor design. Back in the days, the game had infinites, which were loops that the killers simply couldn't do anything about since windows didn't block themselves after 3 volts. The developers, in order to fix this, added the window blocking mechanic and Bloodlust as a literal band-aid fix in order to help killers while behavior reworks the map. Years later, Bloodlust is still a mechanic in the game, and the developers have not gotten rid of it, but it is still considered a band-aid mechanic. This is because behavior made tests in which they disabled Bloodlust in order to see how this would impact the game, and guess what? Beast of Prey was completely useless during that period of time, so a perk that is built on top of a band-aid mechanic. This perk from the start was designed to fail. So that's it. Personally, for the amount of perks that the game has, it doesn't have many poorly designed perks, which is really cool actually. So if you think another perk is poorly designed, let me know in the comments. And if this vid gets enough support, I will make another part, but instead talking about the best designed killer perks and survivor perks in the game. Thank you for watching.